Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and as the title suggests and the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about the new G80, G82 M3 and M4. I'm currently in my M4 and I thought I'd do this video and give you guys my thoughts about the new car. Obviously I've not seen it or anything, but I've seen all the kind of pictures and the few vids that are kind of trailing around YouTube and whatnot. So I just thought I'll give you my thoughts about the car. And obviously I've got the M4, like the F82, and I've also got the G23 series, so I kind of thought it might be a good idea I just put my thoughts together and present them to you guys out there. So first of all, what I want to talk about are the size of the grills on the new M3 and the M4. Yes, they are massive, but honestly I personally think that they actually pulled it off with the M3 and the M4. And the reason why I say that is finally the M3 and the M4 have actually got their own identity. They don't look anything like the standard 3 series and the standard 4 series that are on the road, and therefore it's kind of created its own kind of identity with the whole front end. I mean, if you look at the grills on like the standard G20, yes, they're quite big, but they're nowhere as big as, like, say, the M3. And the front end, it is completely unique to the M3 and the M4. So personally I think that BMW have kind of pulled it off by creating the M3 and M4 and giving it its own kind of unique identity. I mean, there's loads of people out there that really don't like the grills of the M3 and the M4, but I'd be really interested to see over time how many of those people actually go and buy the M3 and the M4 with those grills. And I'm sure as time goes on, those grills will grow on most of you guys out there that currently don't like them. So as a starter, I personally don't mind those grills on that car, and I kind of think that it gives the front end of the M3 and the M4 G80, G82 a real striking unique identity for those cars. So I think it's a massive thumbs up from BMW to actually go bold and put those grills on. So in the UK, the M3 and the M4 is only going to be offered in the competition form, which essentially means it's going to have a 3-litre straight 6 engine, codenamed the S58. It's going to be mated to an 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox. This time it's not a double clutch, it's a torque converter, but I'm sure BMW have tweaked with those ratios and the software around it, so it's going to be pretty much just as quick as the DCT gearbox. In terms of power, it's going to have 510 horsepower, 650 newton meters of torque, which is 100 more than I'm getting out of the current M3, F80 and the F82 M4. Outside of the UK, you're going to be able to get the car as a base model non-competition, which will be 490 horsepower, same amount of torque, that's 650, but it's going to be available as the manual. Down the line, at some point, even in the UK, you'll be able to opt it with the MX drive. I'm not sure whether the MX drive is going to be standard from launch. Some reports I've read are saying that it's going to happen like probably a bit later down the line. Some of them are saying it's going to be at launch, so I'm a bit sketchy on that, but it will come with like the MX drive, so you'll get the 4-wheel drive system on the M3 and the M4 for the first time. So in terms of the interior, I think the new G80 and the G82 M3 M4, they look phenomenal from inside. Pretty much shares most of the interior as like the current G20 does. Obviously it's got bespoke features, like, say, for example, the driver's display, that's bespoke to the M car. You've also got the seats, again, they are like bespoke to, like, say, the M3 and the M4. And this time, for the first time, you can actually have like the headrest. Rather than it being a one-piece seat, you can adjust the headrest, so you got a little bit more kind of flexibility within the seat. Another news about the seats while we're on them, you can opt for, and I think it's quite an expensive option, like 3.5k, you can go for the carbon seats, which are a bit more of a bucket seat. They're a lot more sportier. It's like got a full carbon back to them, and like it's basically carbon all over, like through and through. It gives like the car a more of a racy feel, I suppose. Personally, I think those are the seats that I would definitely want to have, because it just makes the car that bit more special to have. I'm not sure how comfortable those seats are going to be, but it just makes the car look way cooler in my opinion, and I think it actually suits the M4 more so than in the M3. That's just my opinion. I'm a more of a coupe type of guy, so hence why I've got the M4, not the M3. And if I am to go and buy the G82, I'll definitely have those seats spec'd in. In terms of the rest of the styling of the car, it's a bit like the current M3 and the M4. A lot of people would probably go for the M4 because it just looks that much more aggressive. You know, you got the wider hips on the rear. You know, you do feel a bit cheated when you buy like the current M4 because you don't get the wide body as such compared to, like, say, the M3. But it all comes down to personal preference, I suppose. Like I say, I'm more of a coupe guy. I prefer the M4 over the M3, and it's the same for me again when I'm looking at, like, say, the new G80, G82, M3, M4. I personally like the M4 over the M3. And another feature that I do like about the M4 is the lights on the back of the M4. I think they just look a little bit more unique, you know, obviously to the M4 compared to, like, say, the M3. The M3 lights are very similar to what I've got on the G20 anyway. So for me personally, I would love to have, like, say, the new G82 just because of the way that car is styled out. So there is something that I really don't like about the new M3 and the M4, and like I say, I don't really mind the grills because I think I can live with the grills. Something else is it's the wheel setup. I really don't understand the wheel setup on those cars, because for the first time on the standard, like, M3 and the M4, you're getting like a staggered setup in terms of a 19-inch wheel on the front and a 20-inch wheel on the rear. Now that's all fine and well when you're buying, like, say, the CS version in the current crop of F80 and F82 M3 M4 CS. You kind of get that setup, but on the competition pack, I really don't understand it. And you can probably see from this profile, it just looks odd, you know, or is it looking odd to me? But I really don't know why they've done that. And, you know, one thing I don't get is it just looks odd to me, like the way you've got a 19-inch wheel on the front and the 20 on the rear, and the arch gap on the front is way bigger compared to, like, say, what it is on the rear. I just don't know why they've done that, and I just can't get that out of my head right now. So that's the only thing that I don't like about the upcoming M3 and the M4. And in terms of performance now, you know, 0 to 60 on those cars is going to be like about 3.9 seconds or sub 4 seconds, and no doubt it'll be much quicker, you know, than the numbers suggest from BMW anyway. You know, coupled with, like, the MX drive, those cars are going to be phenomenally quick, you know, even like, say, 100 to 200 and whatnot. Even though the cars have now got 100 more Newton meters of torque, the weight of the car has now gone up. It's now something in the region of about 1.7 tons compared to, like, say, 1.5 on, like, say, you know, the current M3 and the M4. So even though it's got more power and it's got more torque, it's also got more weight. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how it will actually handle, like, say, a back road. No doubt it's going to handle them absolutely brilliantly. You know, it's the whole feature of an M car, but it's a lot more heavier than, like, any previous M car. So that's just something just to bear in mind. The new M3 and the new M4 are going to be priced in the region of about 70 to 75k, and then you got the options as well. So, you know, you can get a carbon pack, which will be like, you know, a $4,000 option, which will give you all the carbon bits all around. So they're quite expensive cars, you know, out the box. Now you kind of compare that price to, you know, the outgoing car, which I admit the outgoing car has been around for quite a while. You can probably pick up a half decent one for around 30 odd K to 35k now. Like, mine is a non-competition, it's a pre-PPF as well, so you get a little bit more sound coming out of you, I suppose. You know, you can pick one of these up for around about, say, 30 to 35k. So it's a huge price difference compared to, like, what you can get at the moment to what you're going to get one of them for. However, having said that, when the current M3 and the M4 were out, they were also around the sort of 60s to 65k mark. So yes, it has grown in size, it has grown in technology, and also that's reflected in the price. So it is going to be quite pricey to actually go out and buy. But the thing is, like any M car, there'll be huge deals going out on them at some point, and they depreciate like hell anyway in the first couple of years. So you'll be able to easily buy down the line, you probably get one for about, you know, 40 to 50k at some point. In terms of the styling, I think what I really like about the new M3 and the M4 is that it still carries forward, like, the carbon roof that's, you know, been a feature now on the M3 and the M4 for, you know, at least 2 generations. I also like the fact that it's got the quad exhaust pipe set up as well, and the exhaust tips, they've also grown in size. I think they're like 100 millimeters in size, and They really give like the back end of the new M3 and the M4 a real striking look. And just like the current F80 and the F82 M3 M4, there's no doubt that as time goes on, there'll be various variants of the M3 and the M4 coming out. So, you know, perhaps there'll be like, you know, a CS version and a GT version of them as well. You know, so I'm sure, you know, BMW are going to keep themselves quite busy and keep on, like say, tuning those cars as time goes on. So do I see myself jumping into a G80 M3 or a G82 M4? Well, not right now, because I wouldn't want to be paying like say 70 odd K for a car, and even if the car's on finance, you know, it's not going to exactly be cheap on finance. But hopefully within a couple of years time, depending on how I'm getting on with my current M4, it'd definitely be like the G82 M4 that I would definitely want to consider. And the reason I say that is I just think that the G82, in my opinion, personally for me, the G82 just looks that little bit better compared to the G80. Now I'm probably going to be splitting opinions here, because most people do prefer the M3 over the M4, but you know, I'm, like I say, more of a coupe guy. I would definitely consider the G82 M4. So there you go guys, I've given you my thoughts and my opinions around the G80 and the G82 M3 M4. I hope you have found this video somewhat informative. If you haven't subscribed already to the channel, please do consider subscribing. Definitely check out my Instagram, and guys, hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Take care.